I can guarantee you they do not pay me enough to keep the order during commercial breaks in this studio. Please, this is K24 This Morning. My name is Jeff Moore. If you're just joining us, this is the second half of our newspaper review. Of course, it's looking at what is the main headline right across dailies right now. They're calling it the Uhuru DP clash on your front page of the Standard. On the front page of the PD, Ruto to Uhuru, State House is not about tribe. So it seems like it's number one and number two in the country. Going at it as far as they are concerned. In studio, I have Arnold Maleba, Gloria Oroba, and Hesbon Owila, of course, just giving some analysis to what is happening right now. You can also get me on Twitter at I am Jeff Mote. Isaac Clean says, I love the term wheelbarrow factor. Mimi ukinipea wheelbarrow, it would help me, give me a loan or a job. Hapo ndio nitasonga mbele. Okay, fine, Isaac, I hear you on that. Let's see. DJ Deria is saying, right now, all you want is Miguna Tosha on by-elections. Yeah, ndo atapambana na cartel. Okay, DJ Darius, I hear you loud and clear on that. Ted Duncan, I don't care about the tribe of the president. I care about electoral justice. I care about the development track record of the president. I care about how the president respects the Constitution. Okay, that is coming in right there. Keep them coming in. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote on Twitter. Hesbon, I'll come to you on this particular break because you've heard the issues right now. And even before we speak to matters by elections, almost feels like when we move away from the real issue of hustlers, we're trying to skirt around what many have said is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, and you know, to a large extent, I want to agree with Arnold. That there's nothing wrong with talking about inequalities in the society because glaring inequalities exist almost everywhere. We have the digital divide, we have rich nations, poor nations. In Kenya, we have rich people, poor people. There's no problem at all in talking about that. But I think there's a fundamental problem when you want to use that to rally the rich against the poor or the poor against the rich. And I think that's the fundamental issue that we need to address ourselves to. To what extent is this campaign about hustler, rallying people against a certain class of people? And I think in Kenya, you know, we've perfected this mistake, you know, of not dealing with the hard part of politics. And I think Arnold captured it quite accurately, that we vote for people, then we find reasons why we vote for them. As a voter, I don't think I need to have reasons why I should vote for someone. That person is supposed to give me reasons why I should vote for them. And if you look at this hustler narrative and all these things that people are propagating here against BBI and uniting Kenyans, the critical question would be, yes, we understand that there is a gap between the rich and the poor, and it has widened in the last few years. So we don't need to hear that. We need to hear how we're going to bridge this gap. So politicians who fail to address themselves to the issues of how they are going to deal with this inequality, resort to rallying people who are poor and promising them a mirage that does not exist. I can tell you for free, there is no day that you will have everyone seated on the table. The ones who are already on the table, and there are people we gave the power, and we gave them this power for 5 years. They actually need to be telling us, for the last 7 or 8 years, what have they been doing as far as bridging this gap is concerned, before they start promising us heaven here on earth on how they're going to make every other guy who has a boda a dynasty. Every other guy who is selling, you know, mboga down the streets rich all of a sudden. We need the how and why. We don't need to be reminded and told that because you're poor, vote along these lines. And I think that's the narrative that we need to run away. It is lazy to run away from the political mobilization to class mobilization.
Hesbon, very quickly on this, even as we move forward to matters by elections right across the country, with that particular argument that we're having, there's a party that has come out to essentially champion the hustler nation, the hustler movement, the United Democratic Alliance right there. And when you look at it from where you stand, as you go into these by-elections, if for some reason these particular candidates do win in some of these seats, will you feel that probably this particular narrative is what is the mood on the ground right now, and that's what needs to be addressed only? You can talk about building bridges, but right now it seems like the hustlers really want their say to be heard.
You see, first of all, I think I have a problem with saying that if these candidates in these political parties that are associated with the hustler narrative win, then would be essentially saying that the hustler thing is the biggest factor in any election. The dynamics in a by-elections are totally different because the key thing in a by-election is how do we get voters out to go and vote. That's the first thing. So that side of the political divide that will get as many voters out to go and vote is likely to carry the day. And if you can rally leaders from other regions to come to these specific constituencies where we are going to have by-elections and create that reassurance among the electorate that this is a mass movement. There are so many people from all over this country. There are guys from Mount Kenya, guys from all over who are coming to Kabuchai, for instance, to support a hustler candidate. Then you're likely to have something that is totally unique and different from a normal general election. Okay. Because in a normal general election, not everyone will descend in a particular constituency to go and campaign for a particular candidate. Everyone will be fighting their own battles in their own constituencies. So we should, and you see, that's what the Hustler Brigade is working on. They want to rally as many people as possible to make a point in these by-elections. Let me tell Kenyans, a by-election is unique. There are different dynamics in a by-elections, and I think there are people who will use these by-elections to try and rally Kenyans against each other along class. It is unfortunate that leaders who have the power to make a difference and were given that power between 2017 and 2022 can resort to reminding us that we are poor and some of us are rich.
So, Hezbon, very quickly, just a yes or no. So you don't think the by-elections will be indicative of 2022?
Absolutely not. Look at it this way.
Okay, fine. Let me just leave that right now. Okay, let me just Arnold. I'll be back to you. Hezbon, just 1 second. Let me get to Arnold.
Let me just explain. Look at it this way. In 2013, we had a general election. Before the election in 2013, we didn't even know that Uhuru Kenyatta could amass the political capital that he did. Now, let us go back to 2002, when Raila was the Secretary General of KANU. We didn't know that Kibaki, Wamalwa, and Gilu, with their NAK, would have a political juggernaut that took Kibaki to State House. So, so many things are likely to happen.
Okay, fine.
A few individuals cannot confuse us with by-elections here and there to tell us that it will determine what will happen in 2020. It won't.
Okay, Hezbon, I hear you. We are fortunate enough today to have someone who's actually a candidate in one of these by-elections, Arnold Maliba, vying in Matungu constituency for Member of Parliament right there. Yeah. From where you stand, because clearly there will be a candidate in your area who probably will be from the hustlers narrative, and you're on the ground and you can see the issues that are there. How do you speak to that as someone who wants to get to that particular seat right now? Because, as you have said, right across the country, the issue of economic inequality is a main problem.
Well, it's true that a year to an election, there is a lot of shifting formations and people coming together to try and prepare for the general election. Because unfortunately for elections, normally in an ideal situation, is that no one ever has got a dry run for elections. So when there are by-elections, then parties want to try and run their systems and see if their systems are good to go. So even if it's on a smaller scale, they try to just have a dry run. A normal having a recce, like the military will do, to see if then there is a D-Day, if they were to run and do it. Something has happened both in Msambweni, we've seen it. I know guys really want to downplay that, and it's one of the reasons why there was a lot of anger in Mululu the other day because of the outcome that we saw in Msambweni. Something is happening in Matungu, something is happening in Kabuchai. So talking about wheelbarrows, whereas I could actually be biased, but because I am a participant, I will say this, that there was JAP before there was Jubilee Party, the party on which Waititu was elected, and I think there was somebody else in Masaini who was also elected on the same. But Waititu was the first candidate on JAP in replacing Mushai when Mushai died. And JAP was actually billed as the party on which Uhuru and Ruto would be running. But somehow there were mix-up, and then they ended up again forming up a different party. Now, that said, let's move to PDR. We need to look at its history first of all. It started, the person who registered this political party is the current Secretary General of Jubilee Party, Raphael Tuju. This party started off as POA, Party of Action. Then during the merger and over its lifetime, when Raphael Tuju wanted to run for president, he ran on a party called POA. It is this same party That party then changed into PDR and it moved to the north. I think the leadership and the ownership then moved to the north. It has got sitting members of parliament and MCAs and even a senator. I think senator for Isiolo and the women rep for Garissa, something like that. It has got a number of parliamentarians today as PDR, Party for Development and Reform. It has now, of course, morphed into a new thing, and I think it's for obvious reasons. When the other side of, they're just trying to play the old thing of coming up, when something gets cliche, you can run with it. You remember when, after the 205 referendum, Raila said, hata chungwa inaweza kuwa nini? Inaweza kuwa chama. And then it became a party. Somebody already had run and registered a party called ODM. And then, of course, it moved on, going on and on. So, from where we are today, we look at this party is not new. It is a party that has been existing. And the funny thing is that the current Jubilee SG has got a hand in it because he founded the party. So it's changed, it's done away with the bull. I saw people from the north complaining that this party was quote-unquote a pastoralist party and the bull represented their heritage, cattle and such, and they were not very happy with changing the symbol from the bull to the wheelbarrow. But I think the people on that side want to make a point with the wheelbarrow jokes and everything else. I've seen we've now moved away from calling the wheelbarrow a 16th century technology thing, even though it's much older. The wheelbarrow precedes Christ. But now people are talking about the wheelbarrow being a symbol of Freemasonry and such stuff. There's so much around it. So will this party hold? I think that if this party will make sense or not make sense is in the by-elections. Even though I know that in Luyaland, the dynamics can actually be very... Sometimes you really do not know where you stand. You can actually see them very busy supporting Raila. They vote for him as president. And down here, they organize. I'll give you an example of Kakamega, where the governor is from ODM. The person who got predominant presidential votes is Raila Odinga. But out of the 12 members of parliament elected, out of the 12 constituencies, 5 of them are ANC, 4 of them are on Jubilee, 2 of them are on ODM, and 1 is on Ford Kenya. So sometimes in the West, I'm not so sure that that party really wanted to field a candidate in the West because it could die by way of by-election. Okay. The same way JAP died by way of by-election. And realizing that they didn't do nominations, I've actually seen a number of independent candidates, about 7 of them saying that they want to do a press conference. They've been saying they were called, they were lied to and such. They didn't do a nomination both in Kabuchai, in Matungu, and in Machakos. If you look at the background, for those of us who are practicing politicians, you realize that in Machakos, for example, there was push and pull between Mudama and Munyaka. All of them had their own candidates. In Matungu, Rashid Mohammed, Halwale, and Washiali had their own candidates. There was push and pull. In Kabuchai, it was much easier because Didmas and the others agreed on my friend Evans Kakai. It was very, very easy. But in the West, I really don't want to give them hope because on that particular end, that could be if they really want to sell the party to go forward, then testing it in the West was a wrong idea because that particular side slides a lot. You really don't want to try on that particular end. Those guys can actually laugh with you, clap for you, and then when the elections come, they just decide other things. So I don't think the wheelbarrow in the West, probably in Machakos, even though in Machakos there are other 3 strong forces, almost to equivalent level. There is Maendeleo Chap where there is a sitting governor. There is Wiper, where Kalonzo is still the big man on that particular end. And then now there is Mudama on that particular end who actually walked out of that seat. So let's see how it turns out. But I think this was a gamble. If they really want to use this by-election as a way to market a party and make it a vehicle for 2022, then probably it came too early.
Gloria, we have the wheelbarrow in the room. That's been addressed in every single room that we talk about.
I like that you equate it to the elephant.
Because it is indeed.
The elephant, because it's the big topic
Everyone
of discussion.
has been talking about the wheelbarrow from 16th century. As he said, political scientists are now painting similarities between that and Freemasonry. From where you stand with this particular party,
You know, I want to agree with Arnold a little bit in terms of, first of all, Kenyans already know that political parties are just vehicles to elections. They don't have ideologies, and if they do, they're just theory. They don't have, I mean, you want to say that, for instance, ODM is a socialist party because it tends to speak about the issues that the people want, and, you know, that's why they will never push for just infrastructure, but they, you know, it's a socialist party. But then you ask yourself, those are things we write in our manifesto, those are things you write in the party, you know, theory. But in real sense, a while back when Jubilee was actually, it appeared like Jubilee was fighting William Ruto, his supporters came out and said, we don't even care about this party because for us, we believe in the person, we believe in the person's vision. And so we will even, you know, get whatever outfit to, if they want to stay without their Jubilee, let them stay with their Jubilee, we'll get whatever outfit. And when I saw the formation of this party, I was laughing because it was actually, it was a matter of time. Because we saw how certain politicians who are actually affiliated to William Ruto were kicked out of the Jubilee Center. We saw the formation of the Jubilee Asili Center. I mean, it was just a matter of time before an outfit was put because, of course, politically, it gives you a head start if you're in a political party that is affiliated to someone who's popular. So for me, it's not about the party itself. It's actually about the association of the party towards William Ruto. Meaning, if next week another party is formed that William Ruto seems to sort of identify himself with, that party will also be equally as strong as UDA. In another month, if another party is formed, because eventually it might be a coalition of all these parties. That is how Jubilee was formed. It was actually, all these other parties were folded and brought together. So who knows, maybe where I come from in Kisii County, there's going to be another political party that William Ruto will identify himself with, which will have equal ground as UDA. But I want to speak on the by-elections and whether or not this is a reflection of what is coming in 2022. I think Hezbon Owila has chosen to just put his head, you know, in the sand, like the proverbial ostrich, because Msambweni was actually the benchmark of this narrative. Msambweni, in fact, you remember that Raila Odinga said that if they lose Msambweni, then it was an indication that BBI will do what? Will fail. So himself as well, he understood that the dynamics of that by-election was really about 2022. In my, I come from Kisii County. We have a by-election in Kiamokama ward, where we are actually going to look for our new MCA. And we have 4 strong candidates right now that have lined up. The first one is a guy called Ondabu. Ondabu is a former DC. The challenge that he is having now is having to convince the ground that he is not a dynasty, that he is not the deep state. Right. In fact, he's not going out to campaign on the things that he's going to do. He's going out to tell people, guys, I'm really not a dynasty, I'm a hustler. You understand? The second one is a guy called Nyakiriga. He was second in the last elections. He came number 2. His challenge as well right now is people don't really know, are you for the hustlers? Are you for the dynasties? Because he has not been endorsed by anyone, he's like an amorphous thing that people have chosen to put there. The third person is a guy called Nyakiramba. Nyakiramba used to work in, he's in the tea industry. At one point he was in KTD and whatever. He had a lot of small problems and challenges dealing with certain communities and clans. So for him, he's actually now presenting himself based on the issues because he's not been endorsed by the dynasties or, you know, by the hustlers. So he's actually having an opportunity to talk about the issues because people are like, okay, let's see where you fall. And then the last one is a guy called Matara, who was fronted to the public by Sam Ongeri. So challenge number 1, he has never been a politician, but instead of coming to the table with a clean slate, now people associate him with Ongeri. The first thing they're saying is, who you candidate were? Dynasty. Okay. So definitely, at the end of the day, to say that this issue on the wheelbarrownomics and the hustlers for the dynasty is not there, it doesn't exist. On the ground, it really is, do you represent the hustlers? And if so, then what is your agenda? Okay. And if you come as a dynasty, then we also want to know, do we really want to give another dynasty this opportunity of power? So, and you know, it's really, I'm not a practicing politician, but I understand where Arnold is coming from. When you go, especially to the Kisii County, in my constituency, the member of parliament who was elected the sitting member of parliament who won in my constituency, Bobasi constituency, did not come from Jubilee or ODM, Because in Kisii, parties are just parties. They are vehicles.
Okay.
The person who actually won came from People Democratic Party, and he won by 18,000. The second one was Jubilee by 15,000, and the third one was actually ODM. And please remember, we're in Kisii County, which people think is the bedroom or the ODM stronghold. Okay. It is not. So people are pragmatic. They're starting to understand. We don't care what party you are coming. We don't care what symbol you're using. What we care now is, right now we are suffering. We have economic challenges. So they identify themselves with the hustle. And that's why the hustler movement is actually a very, very strong, and whatever you want to talk about it, it's actually a positive direction to where this country is going to.
Let me get Hesbon back in, probably to give a double take on this from what has been said so far. Because Hesbon, even as you had said that by-elections really not indicative of a general election down the line, we saw what happened in Msambweni and, you know, the furore that that brought. And also, the ward elections taking place in Oranga, for instance, where Jubilee essentially lost in its stronghold in that area. And some people are saying that really informed even the position that Senator Kangata took moving forward in terms of popularity of the party and of the Building Bridges initiative. Even with all of these events taking place, Hesbon, still by-elections have no water to the main event in 2022?
Let me tell you, let me start with Senator Irungu Kangata's letter. I think I'm a researcher, you know, a communication and media researcher, so I understand research. And I think Irungu Kangata made it clear that his study was not scientific, the sample was not representative. But that is besides the point. You see, the basis upon which BBI is perceived all over this country is actually anchored on what people who are opposed to BBI have been saying. And they've been saying this since 2018. Now, give these people in Mount Kenya an opportunity to interact with BBI. And I appreciate what Honorable Irungu Kangata did, because now there's a team of leaders from Mount Kenya region who are going to sensitize the people on what is in BBI. A reading of the BBI, if you're from Mount Kenya region, is no-brainer for you to decide to vote for BBI, because there are enough things in BBI for the good of every Kenyan in this country, whether you are old or young. This Wilbaronomic thing is just a mirage. It is captured in the BBI, which has reduced the basic unit of development in this country to the ward. Those hustlers exist in the ward. So the whole issue of BBI and Msambweni is neither here nor there. Then number two, when you want to prove a point, you'll go out of your way to prove a point and create perception. And I think there are politicians who have learned that all they need to do is create perception. So Msambweni will be used to create perception that BBI is failing, and the people who supported this independent candidate, who is actually a member of ODM, are having momentum going to 2022. It is not true. And I'll give you an example. The governor of Mombasa County today is Ali Hassan Joho. In the run-up to the 2002 general election, Joho contested a by-election against Honorable Mwaboza. Mwaboza won. In Kisauni. In 2002, Joho became the member of parliament for Kisauni. What happened? Joho is the governor today. Where is Mwaboza? So how did that by-election inform the subsequent elections? No way. And I can go back and back.
I want to get into there, because I think we have a minute to go before you close. Because even as we paint the picture between, for example, Msambweni and BBI, it really is a co-principal of the BBI who said that. He's the one who said that we're equating this to popularity of BBI when it comes later. It was his assessment politically of the stakes at the time. Do you dispute that as well? I don't dispute, and he recanted that. But I'm speaking as an authority. Let me tell you.
He recanted
No. He said that let me, and this is Raila Odinga who said, he said that he did not say that if ODM does not win in Msambweni, BBI will fail all over the country. He talked about Msambweni, and he made that clear with Ken Mijungu. But let me say this. The people who are trying to prove a point will ride on that. And they are politicians. They are likely to create the perception that they are winning because of Msambweni. We cannot take that away from them. But Msambweni is not a representative of our understanding of BBI. Okay. I've never been to Msambweni. I've been to Migori. I know how they understand BBI. I've looked at BBI, and I know what it has for people in Mount Kenya region. All they have to do, read and make a decision.
Okay. A minute to go before we close. So, Arnold, Gloria, We have a minute to go. Keep
So
your closing remarks very brief.
I'll actually be very concise and precise. Number one, William will not run on UDA in 2022.
That's your calling.
Number two is that UDA is actually meant to spite Jubilee. Because William has got about 6-7 friendly parties. The choice of UDA having been poor is deliberate to spite Raphael Tuju, who has made it difficult for them to field candidates. Okay. And finally, the hustler narrative is like the gospel. During the triumphal entry when Jesus, I'm saying it's like the gospel. It's basic English. During the triumphal entry, as Jesus sat on a colt entering Jerusalem, and the multitudes were saying, Hosanna, 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 his disciples told him, rebuke them. And Jesus turned back to them and told them, if they were to be silent, then the rocks would shout it. Even if William does not pick up the gospel of the hustlers, the problems that people are facing, somebody else will pick it up and it will still echo the way it's doing today.
Okay. Gloria, your final words.
I actually believe that Deputy President William Ruto is not going to run under UDA.
Okay.
I actually believe just like he folded, he was the architect of Jubilee by going around and picking all those parties that were popular and had, you know, strongholds in certain places and then forming a new party. I think that's what's going to happen. I think UDA is one of the parties that are actually going to form the main party that William Ruto will run. Okay. And I want to say this very categorically. If you're actually sitting somewhere and thinking that this Wilbaronomics is a fallacy, is just a wave that will die. The Hustler Nation movement began like 2.5 years ago. And everyone kept on dismissing it. What is that about? What is this hustler? Even as we are hustlers. What is this thing? You understand? It was being dismissed to a point that they actually realized, okay, this is something that we need to talk about. By the time you hear a guy like Murathe coming out on a press conference and attacking the Hustler Nation movement, then you know that it is a very, very strong movement. So I believe that what we should be talking about, if I was Hezbollah or anyone on ODM, and particularly if I was Raila Odinga's advisor, I would advise him. It's time to dissociate himself from Uhuru Kenyatta. It's time to dissociate himself from this fake building bridges initiative. It's time to dissociate himself from all these things that the people on the ground, the masses, those who have the sovereign power, are saying we are not interested in, because otherwise it's going to be a very difficult run for him, as William Ruto already has a head start. Okay, that's where you draw this line as far as the show is concerned in this particular segment of the show. Quite a heated debate, and of course it continues online. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or K24 TV. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Arnold Maleba, Gloria Roba, Hezbo Noella as well, and your analysis as to the big issues of the day. We take a short break at this particular point. After the break, we get interactive. Don't go too far.